Alright, what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper. So today we're going to be looking at some of the radios found in Revelations, and these are actually in the Mob of the Dead section, and these give us some really interesting storyline details of things that we didn't know in the past. So what I'm going to do for you guys is actually let you listen to all three radios, and then we're going to talk about it right after, so enjoy these clips.
So I just sat down with Stanley Ferguson, night guard at ALCATRAZ. He told me a heck of a tale. A few years back, 4 inmates, 3 mobsters, and some weasel had this brilliant plan to escape the rock. I know they sound like real geniuses, these guys. Anyway, this weasel was quite the talker. He had these guys convinced they could escape. He told them he could build a plane and that together they'd all fly right off the rock. Now the weasel had plans and drawings and everything. I saw them. But even if they built it, no way that baby would ever fly. These mobsters, it's lost on me. They were smart guys. I mean, Sal DeLuca? No way you can convince a man of his caliber something so absurd. So I guess at some point the whole sorry truth came out and the weasel found himself cornered. They did him good. Left him bleeding to death on the cold stone roof. They all got the chair for it, and that was that. Sad to think that 3 guys like that could find themselves swinging, all because they bought into the lies of a delusional con man. Anyway, no clue why Mr. Rapp wanted me to meet this Stanley first, but I'm headed to the city now. Something about tracking down 3 doozies and a floozy. Oh yeah, not to mention those artifacts in the South Pacific and Russia. I don't know what that's about. I never even met this guy. Likes to stay to the shadows. Real weirdo. But the money's good. Maybe it'll all make sense when I get there.
So these are some extremely interesting audio clips. Now, if you don't know whose perspective this is coming from, this is actually from the reporter in Shadows of Evil. Now, if you don't know who this is the man who drove the truck with the summoning key in the back, and we find out later that Richtofen actually stabbed him because he came out and he was like babbling something, you know, just kind of nonsense, and he was telling him to stay away from it. He had the letter in his hand, and basically Richtofen stabbed him, and he pretty much jacked him for the summoning key. Now, in this first radio, we see that the reporter sat down and talked to Stanley Ferguson. Now, Stanley Ferguson is actually the man who's in the audio reels when you do the Mob of the Dead Easter egg. He was the guard at ALCATRAZ the night of the alleged escape, and he just gives him the entire story in the breakdown of how they tried to escape the rock. But what's really interesting about this is that the reporter knows that these 4 mobsters were smart. Each and every single one of them were smart. And he specifically points out how you couldn't get past a man like Sal DeLuca with such a ridiculous plan. He said that he actually took a look at the weasels, you know, kind of drawings and blueprints and sketches of the plane that he had built, and you know, pretty much the whole plane laid out how to get out. And he said like no sane man would actually believe this or would want to go through with this, and especially someone like Sal DeLuca who was smart. And obviously Sal DeLuca was a very smart con man. Sal was pretty much the mastermind behind all kinds of criminal activity, including prostitution and distribution of alcohol and that sort of stuff, and he didn't really get involved with too much violence or any sort of dirty work or killing people. He would usually have, you know, Billy Handsome do the dirty work for him. So by no means was he a non-intelligent man. He knew what to do, he was very street smart, and he had a lot of common sense as well. And what the reporter here is basically saying is the fact that Sal was not a dumb individual by any sense of the word, it's just not adding up how he would believe the weasel for any amount of time that his plan is going to work. So this is what brings up the question is why did the group go along with the weasel for as long as they did? We know the events of Mob of the Dead, what happened is that the plans kind of fell apart due to complications, and they ended up, you know, kind of getting makeshift weapons and killing the weasel on top of the roof, and then eventually they were killed the next morning. But why did they believe them for as long as they did, which is the really interesting question that we have here today. One possible explanation could be that you guys know that Albert Arlington and Dr. Monty have a kind of special connection and relationship. So maybe the fact that they have this sort of relationship means that maybe Dr. Monty was using Albert to speak kind of through him. He's using as an instrument, and we've seen this done before, right? He kind of used Maxis as sort of his phone or his radio, I guess. He would give messages to Maxis, and he would then put them into electronic radios or just any sort of form that we could communicate with Dr. Maxis. But they're messages from Monty at the end of the day. Dr. Monty confirms that, so maybe the same thing is going on here. Maybe what he wanted Albert to do is to get the other people involved in order to perpetuate and start this cycle. And that actually makes a lot of sense because we know that Dr. Monty's perfect world needs cycles in order to kind of keep it in balance, right? When he sends our 4 characters back into the premise section of it, that's because he's perpetuating the cycle again and he's making us repeat the exact same stuff. And maybe the exact same thing is going on with Mob the Dead. He needs to keep the cycle going. We know that in Mob the Dead there is a way to break the cycle, but he wants to keep the cycle going through Albert, and maybe that's why he had perpetuated this in the first place. And also something really interesting is that the reporter in Shadows of Evil, the actual character for him, you can see he has been stabbed, but if you look at in his hand, he has the letter that he was talking about, and this is stamped with M. We know M to be Monty, as, you know, kind of Maxis and other people have talked about this, and this is really interesting because we don't know exactly what this letter says, but when Richtofen finds him, he's just kind of babbling off some nonsense, and we don't know if it's because of what's inside that letter or anything like that. But what that kind of tells me is that Dr. Monty is probably using other people to keep this cycle going, to keep the cycle perpetuated somehow and maintained, and he's using, you know, different people. Albert, he maybe using the reporter, using a bunch of different people to kind of keep this cycle going and to keep his perfect world. So that is pretty much my theory for that, but let me know what you guys think about this. These are a very confusing set of radios, and I might be making an update on this, making a second theory. I don't know, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Let me know what your guys' best theories are. If you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, guys. We're going to go for 115, of course. Thank you all for watching the video. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you guys haven't already, thank you all for watching again, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.